turn. Lately, I've been talking to women who are 35, 36, and it does seem to be a turning point. And then you're seeing 40, and you're supposed to make it by 40. Life begins at 40. You're measuring it all, but life continues. It's just a journey.
And I think that's what young women has to realize. It continues. 50, 60, 70, reinvention.
And we're in a river, and you have to let the river carry you. You cannot force the river.
There's so many great points made in that video, and I relate to so much of it, because when I hit 35, I started to freak the fork out. That's when I left New York. I was like, I don't know, I just need to get out of here. I think I'm gonna go to LA, but I'm not sure. So maybe I'll stop in New Mexico for a while and write a book, blah, blah, blah. That year was the year I was in the abusive relationship with that dude, and that changed my life forever. So then at 37, I think, 36, 37, I was in LA, finding myself. Do I want to live here? What do I want to do? And I remember being in my apartment. I created an amazing home for myself. And that was maybe the first time in my life. And I was dating myself. And I was really focusing on working on all of that codependency that what helped get me in that relationship. I'm not saying that I wasn't, manipulating all that stuff, but I overlooked red flags and I went against my intuition and I almost died. So I was working on this codependency. I was dating myself. I was taking screenwriting classes, throwing myself into my creative life, which I believe is one of the best ways that you can get over a breakup. And date yourself is to throw yourself into anything that's creative. It doesn't mean you have to be an artist. Literally anything that's fun, sparks your curiosity and helps you just make things not to sell, just because you love to. And I remember laying in my bed, and I think I was 37 was when my midlife crisis began. I do not believe that men have a midlife crisis, and I've done a video on that. A lot of men's midlife crisis is a entitlement crisis, and the whole world has been handed to them, and they hate their lives, so they just, cheat on their wives and go start over with another one. Not all men. And also they won't look at their trauma, and their trauma makes them repeat cycles that they just can't get out of because they won't actually work on themselves because they're too attached to patriarchy and domination and power and blah, blah, blah. But I think women, if they're not in the throes of motherhood, because it might be a little different for women who are have kids at the end of their 30s or something, or are just too exhausted. This maybe happened a little later or maybe earlier, whatever. But a lot of women, 37 is the worst year, but it's also the best year, because that was the year that I was I don't know what I need to do, but 37, 38, but this isn't it. Sorry for all that noise. It's my dog. I just need you to see this. Little turkey. Anyway, I was laying in my bed and I heard a helicopter. And in LA, when you hear a hot, choppers going around and around and around, and that the cops are searching for somebody, right? And I remember being is my door locked? And, the access to my apartment was through a backyard. So I was I don't know, a little too comfortable in the city. After I started watching all these serial killer shows, I was oh my God, cities are dangerous. I really was too comfortable having a backyard and thinking I was in the country. Anyway, I was maybe is my door locked? I don't know, maybe it is, but I don't want to get out of bed. And I was well, if that was a serial killer and they came in and unalived me, and if I died in this bed, I'm pretty sure nobody would know for weeks. That's how lonely I was. LA is it's hard to make friends as an adult in general, but LA is really hard because all your friends who starving artists are never available because they're all just working all the time, waiting tables, barbecue, I was doing, and doing, shows and writing and doing all this stuff because you just don't want to wait tables, but that's all you can do to pay rent. And then my friends that were very successful were busy because with success comes crazy schedules, especially in the film industry. So I was I've been here for years and I'm still don't feel I have very, very many friends. Pretty sure no one would know I was dead. And the first time anyone would realize would probably be someone on Facebook being Melanie hasn't posted in a while. Also at the same time, my dad was dying. He had Alzheimer's. So, it's a slow death sometimes, but it's also a death before a death because they just become a different person. So 37 was the year of a transition that lasted almost 5 years. And it was so hard because something about seeing 40, and maybe this isn't the same for everybody, but we've been taught that we have to have certain, we have to meet certain goals, right? There's the goalpost, marriage, baby, blah, blah. But I never wanted children. So I was well, that one doesn't make sense. I honestly didn't believe I would ever meet a man worthy of getting married to. I just assumed that they make your life worse, never better, in my personal experience and the experience of what I saw a lot of women going through. So I was like, okay, not gonna have kids, probably never get married. I'll continue to date because why not, you know, blah. But like, I'm not putting a lot of energy into it. I'm gonna continue to date myself and center myself like I had for, through most of my 20s and 30s. But there's something about seeing 40 that scares the crap out of you, even if you don't want children. And I think it's even worse for women who do want children and who are single in their 30s, like their mid to late 30s, like that pressure to get her done, which by the way, we have found out that all that stuff is a lie. You can have kids like way later than they tell us. Anyway, I made a video about that last year. Maybe I'll do it again. They literally trying to scare us into having kids at a young age. So we just keep having kids, stay out of the workforce so we don't compete with men, and, keep raising little workers. And we all know that the key for women's liberation, or all liberation, is access to money and resources. If you have a kid and are dependent on a man, well, there goes your access to resources without it being through him. Then you got to rely on king baby. Blah. So for 5 years, I was like, I want to move here. I want to do it. I moved from LA to Spain. That year was crazy. Spain, and then to France. And then I was like, what am I doing here? I got to learn a language. I changed jobs. I worked as an English teacher, and then I was trying to make it as a journalist. My dad died in the middle of all that. I needed a home. I was rootless for like 5 years. I had no idea what was really happening to me. And it was terrifying, y'all. Terrifying. And I also didn't have financial security. I had no savings. All I had was debt. And I barely made enough money every month to pay my bills. And people are like, oh my God, 401k. I still don't even know what that is. I don't know what that is. I know it has something to do with retirement, but I've never had one. I didn't have a house. I didn't have, I owned my truck, but but I bought it 15 years ago. I had nothing. I had a ton of privilege and an education, and I had, I had a lot, but I didn't have the things I was supposed to have going into 40. And what I like about that video is 2 lessons that she's talking about. One is forcing solutions. A lot of women ruin their lives because they're trying to force a solution. Yes, ambition is great. Yes, working on goals, having goals, working towards your dreams, being persistent, all those things, absolutely. But forcing solutions gets us in trouble. Forcing solutions might be I need to be married by 40. And so you just marry a man that because you have this thing you need to do and have kids before this age. A lot of us will miss so many intuitive signals that this is not the best idea, but we're really attached to something. And that is forcing solutions. And I love even the metaphor of water. As a whitewater raft guide, I understand the power of water more than I want to. Part of my training in swiftwater rescue before I became a raft guide was to literally get lodged against a log, like a spaghetti strainer. The water's going through all around and my body is stuck against this log. They wanted me to feel what it's like to have no escape. And the flow was pushing me into this. And, that was basically, I got to experience for a few seconds what it's like to drown and have no way out. And then of course they would release something so we could go under the strainer. So I've seen 2 different people drown. I've experienced the feeling of drowning in the current of a river, and it's terrifying. And water is so powerful. And I believe life is as there's a current, and you adjust and you ride it and you try to make it work for you, or you fight against it and then end up in a strainer. You know what I mean? Fighting against the flow. And for me, for whatever reason, I was not meant to get married in my 20s or my 30s. I didn't think I was meant to get married at all. It happened at 42, but I wasn't attached to it. I didn't even think it was going to happen. I was not forcing that solution. The other thing is about life starting at 40. I'm 45, I turned 46 in a few weeks. My 40s have been the best decade of my life. I love myself so much now. I have accomplished some of my biggest dreams in my 40s. I have come into my own. I'm only halfway through them. You just keep reinventing yourself, growing, learning, and riding the current. Don't force things, because sometimes those things are not actually what you want. Something better is on the other end. It may sound cheesy, but everything that happened to me got me to the place I'm in now, and I love my life.